What is up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Pearl Daily here on the Audacity Network. I first want to start by saying thank you to the trad e-girls. Thank you. Without you guys giving really stupid takes, I wouldn't have a job. I might have to keep going after liberal women, and it's just liberal women are a little bit too honest. They're like, yeah, I love sucking dick. They're like, I love being a whore. And I saw Brett Cooper had a really dumb take today. And so I'm going to actually start before I get into today's topic, reacting to her video. Because I really think we can learn from this. I really think as women, there is a canon event that's going to happen in your life as a woman. And unfortunately, females that are influencers, we are delusional for longer. We don't, real life doesn't hit us till we're like 50, because we can just like get a bunch of plastic surgery and filters and thirst trap forever, so we can still be kind of cute for a little longer, you know. So what's going to happen with Candace Owens and Brett Cooper is they have convinced themselves they're somewhat traditional in some way, right? They are not. They can't be. We've talked about this before. There's no woman on this planet that is traditional in any way. If you were born in 2025, you can pretend to be traditional, but you're not. Anybody insinuating anything otherwise is really just cosplaying. And the reason they're cosplaying is because they want virtue signal points. Remember, if Candace and, Candace Owens, Brett Cooper, if they cared about their family, they wouldn't be on the internet. Everything they're doing, it serves their best interests, their goals. But what happens is when you get women, we have a tendency to get to be more bitchy, or really crash out a little bit more when we get what we want. So, Candace and Brett Cooper, they do the conservative e-girl life cycle, which is marry into money, right? And I'm not faulting them. If anything, I would recommend their path. And I'm being honest here. It's a genius path. Kiss J donor ass to get in contact with all the rich men, right? Kiss ass. Then use those connections to marry a rich guy. Both of them did, both $1 million plus. LARP as traditional, even though neither are going to be virgins on their wedding day. Both of them, they both lived in big cities, went to big school. They threw it back for somebody, right? But now they're going to be married and they got to signal virtue. And I think it's a beautiful life cycle. But now what you're gonna see from Brett is because let's just be honest, Brett, you're cosplaying in the nicest way possible. You might convince the men around you. You might but I'm not dumb. A girl that's lived by herself from 15 and then went to UCLA and was in a sorority, she threw it back for somebody. That just doesn't mean you're a bad person. It doesn't even mean you're a whore. I'm not like these conservative guys that think women just don't want to have sex ever, right? They're like, oh, women should just ignore their sex drive until they're. I'm like, yeah, okay, we're not weird, no offense, but like, so I'm not even saying they're whores. I'm just saying I would venture they've slept with more than 5 dudes, and I don't do the workaround stuff. Okay, I don't. If you gave a dude a hand job or a blow job, that's still I'm adding to the bodies. I'm adding to these bodies. You don't get to Catholic schoolgirl Pearl. So what they're going to do is they're going to get married, right? And they're going to be more bitchy and more crazy because now they have gotten what they want. And what I love about conservative e-girls is they prove the red pill right, because their behavior demonstrates why men don't want to get married. We don't have to say anything. Yeah, blowjobs absolutely count. Pearl's body count is easily over 20. It's 5,000. I get to work every single day. You know what I mean? I'm just kidding. So anyways, now again, I'm not claiming that either of these women were as you know, I think there's like a sliding horse scale. There's women that completely suppress the sex drive for a period of time and then usually crash out. Those are usually the women that are more weird. Then there's the mid body count. I mean, those are women that just have sex with hot guys when they want to until they get burned too many times and then, crash out. Then there's the women that are high sex drive and they will bang anything. They'll run through cities. So, I mean, I'm not saying they ran through a city, but you're not gonna, how do I put this? You're not gonna signal purity to me. That's where I'm going with this. You are not gonna signal, um, because if they had any resemblance of a traditional woman, they'd give up some of their leverage, right? They wouldn't require, really, the women are more traditional that don't require marriage, in my opinion, because that's actually a patriarchal relationship. Because the man has the leverage. Women that require you to sign paperwork, that she's saying, I need leverage. So, anyways, I just saw this take of this video and I was like, thank you so much, Brett. Thank you. You have given me another thing to start my show with today. So I appreciate it. I, but we're gonna get into this. Now remember, this woman just gave birth to a baby. Isn't that crazy? The trad e-girls, they're like, you're like, do you want to spend time with your kids? They're like, no. Sorry. They're like, no, I must work. I must. But I need to LARP as conservative, but I must work, which is fine. I'm not saying that's wrong, but I don't think you should get any trad points. That's my point. The YouTube channel cancels out traditionalism. Now you get zero. You get zero. Oh my gosh, I didn't share my screen. I did not share my screen. Okay, well, Brett barely was talking about anything, so you guys didn't miss much. Forgot to share my screen. Women, right? It's like this show is getting too real. Please subscribe to the audacitynetwork.com. I don't know how long this can go on. I don't know how long I can be this real. They're going to kick me off. Oh, you and your wife met at Crystal Lake High School? Cool. Very cool. I know where that's at.
Did a meme from Gossip Girl of Leighton Meester, and she said, y'all really want to get married and have sex with the same person for the rest of your life?
Now again, so she's gonna virtue signal. She's gonna do something to signal. But I got married and I now remember, all the women have been married less than 5 years. We cannot predict what is going to happen to them in the future. So getting married really is just a promise. It's, I promise that we will stay together forever. Now, in the past, it might have had some weight, but in 2025, it means nothing. I don't care if you're right or left. The promise means nothing because women, and you'll see the women that even Brett associates with and Candace, some of them are terrible women, right? I mean, Michaela Peterson, she's got herpes. I'm not trying to be mean here. A lot of people do. You might have just taken an L. But I mean, or I'll clarify so I don't get sued. She tweeted her medication list that had herpes medication on for it. I don't know, but it's not like the married trad women are like, I will only associate with married women. No, and they back up. They'll always take the female side. That's why, Brett Cooper, whenever she sees something innately masculine that benefits men, she crashes out a little bit with a smile, right? But I was watching this video and I just couldn't believe how stupid this take was. And Brett, I got to be honest, when you do journalism and reporting, we're coming into a man's world, so we're open to criticism, right? You can be critiqued. So a lot of times what happens is women, they go on the internet, but they're not strong enough to be on the internet. And they play victim. They're like, oh, I can't believe I got this criticism. Well, you could be raising kids, but we all know women are not going to do that. We all know women will not do that. We know.
All capital letters, the audacity, the insanity. And so that was posted on October 5th, and it has a whopping 20 million views, 20 million impressions on X. And obviously I looked at that and I kind of laughed. I saw it before it really took off. I think she was maybe posting it in regards to the Taylor Swift discourse with her getting engaged and her new album, all of that stuff. But Gina Florio, who I adore, she wrote a great piece about this post in particular for EV Magazine, where she laid out the argument for commitment, for marriage, and she titled it, Is It Boring?
Okay, so again, so women, what they're going to do is they're going to confuse you. So they're going to gaslight. So is it boring to sleep with one person for the rest of your life? And they're going to virtue signal and they're going to say, no, it's not boring. The sex is better. Here are these studies. And then you ask the question where the rubber meets the road. And you say, were you a virgin on your wedding night? And then it's like, dot, dot, dot. You know what? I need to pull, I'm going to pull this up this last time I asked this. Pearly things, virgin, wedding night. We're like, because men care about actions. Women care about like saying things that look good. So again, when the rubber meets the road and you're like, hey, so did you do the thing? Did you? I mean, if you really, and what they'll do to trick simps, right? The trick simps, what they'll do is they'll play innocent. They'll be like, oh, he just used me. Oh, well, if you really wanted to be a virgin, you would require it for, actions speak louder than words, And I know what they're going to say. They're going to say, oh, Pearl's bitter. I'm not really a bitter person, right? I could see why I would come across that way. But I think I'm autistic to some level, and maybe not actually, because I don't want to claim that. But I really hate when people say things that aren't accurate. I get this like gut feeling where I'm just like, my stomach is hurting. I'm like, that's bullshit. You know what I mean? And so when I see women that are saying, that are trying to claim purity, but weren't, I don't like this gaslighting. It just annoys me. And it's nothing personal against the women. But if you're going to come at red pill topics and say they're wrong or claim purity, then I got to hold your feet to the fire, because this is my domain. This is where I live. So, you could say if you want to believe that, I don't know why you're here. Why would you want to hear from a bitter woman? Hold on. There's this, oh my gosh, the funniest clip. This is still the funniest clip of my career. I just can't. This was the funniest. Oh, this was so fun. Out sex outside of marriage, that sort of thing. But let's not play pretend. 3% of people are waiting till they're married. That's not really common. I mean, was anyone here virgin on their wedding night? Anyone? No? Okay. So why do we... Sorry. So yeah, you got Lauren Chen, she got married young. But again, she's still podcasting. She's still streaming until she got caught taking Russia money. Nothing against her, right? But you're not what you say you are. You're not, and that's what I'm kind of going towards. You guys could just stick to the facts, right, of the case, but you make your personal life your brand, So if you do that, Brett, if you make an editorial about your wedding, which could be personal, which I'm not saying it should be, but when you make it public, to me, I'm like, oh, you don't care about God. You don't care about traditionalism. You care about building your brand. And that's totally fine. I think at times there's marriages that are pragmatic. I think historically people cared about merging together. I don't know, like, what do you call it? Like countries would get together and, people get married for political reasons and socioeconomic reasons. I'm not faulting that. I'm not even saying you're wrong. But what I'm saying is what you say you are, you're not. And that's where I get annoyed. What you're pushing is not even something that you can do. You want to pretend. All right. So it's like, yeah, and I got to go through. And I want you guys to know this is not an attack. This is not an attack. This is not an attack. But if you look at the facts, Rachel's been divorced. I'm over 25. I didn't marry young. Moody's got some stuff in her past too that resurfaced on the internet. I'm not going to go into it. Chen, Chen, the only one with a clean record, she still waited like 5 years to have a kid after being married. So, okay, you're taking some kind of birth control, which is fine. I'm not, whatever. But it's just, okay. Come on. Like, I just want to be real with what's going on here,
Oh,
yeah. And then, yeah. So, okay, let's go to this one.
To sleep with one person.
And I think it's mean to sell hope. I think it's so mean to promise people something that there's no evidence is coming. I think that's mean. I think people waste years of their lives waiting for something that's never going to come. So I won't do that.
Person for the rest of your life. The truth behind this viral post on X. And in this article, she basically talked about why this tweet is so unsurprising.
Imagine if you were a reporter in the 70s and you said, look, crime's going to get worse. Immigration's going to get out of control. America is not going to look like the America we have today. Like, you listed all this stuff. Women are going to abort their kids. That's going nowhere. You would seem like an evil, like, doomer. And then everyone would say, no, that's not going to happen. And then you're like, oh no, it's going to happen. And you seem like the bad guy, but really you're the only one being honest where everyone's like, we're going to, take down the system. No, you're not. We're YouTubers. Come on.
Our current landscape due to the cultural messages that women have received about marriage and sex and what it means to be an empowered woman over the last couple of decades. And, her article was very spot on about a lot of things. She also talked about the dangers of promiscuous hookup culture and not having a steady partner. And obviously, her argument for commitment was completely spot on. I agreed with everything. I do want to offer a bit of a different perspective about our current culture. I'm not saying that I have a different perspective about the messages that have been shoved down women's throats for the past few decades,
so again,
but I do think that something—
Notice the feminism. Everything's been shoved down women's throat. Brett, again, it's easy for you to be traditional when you married rich and your YouTube pays for it. And you get a bunch of clout and virtue signal point, which is fine. Not saying that's wrong. But this is why influencers are so out of touch because, we don't realize we're in a protected class. We're just not the same. So she's going to try to sell that things are going to be different, right? The fertility rate, 1.62 and dropping slowly. Okay. Age of first marriage. Older than ever. Okay. Age of first marriage. What percent of women have had abortion? A quarter. What percent of women have had an STD? %20 has an active STD. What percent of women catch HPV? I mean, we've gone through a lot of these numbers. 80% of sexually active women. What percent of women wait until marriage to have sex? Oh, this is higher than I thought. 10 to 11%. this one up a little bit. Well, what is the divorce rate? But you see what I'm saying? Like, none of these numbers are promising. So if I look at the numbers and I have to predict the next 5 years, I'm just trying to be honest here. I'm trying to have a good take based on fact, not like make a wish. And conservative women, it's just always make a wish. It's like you go to Build-A-Bear and you're like, I want to build a society by tweeting. And I'm like, I don't think that's going to work.
Thing is changing. And while it would be very easy to
And this is going to be the take. It's going to change because Taylor Swift got married. I'm like, you can't make this shit up.
look at a world of Alex Coopers and Hollywood promiscuity and hookup culture.
But you and Alex Cooper are the same. I mean, she's probably a little bit worse. But again, I have no evidence to believe that you're any different, right? You're still doing the public career while you have a kid. You still did the career before you had a family. It's very similar. She just built, if anything, Alex Cooper was more honest. I don't believe any of these e-girls, none.
Just feel impending doom, like there is no light at the end of the tunnel. I promise you, it does feel like things are starting to change.
Yeah, when you marry into a bunch of money. Sorry. That would change a lot, you know? I don't have to keep, if we can't have critical thinking on this show, then you just go elsewhere. You know what I mean?
I actually touched on this a little bit last week when we were talking about Taylor Swift's new album and the social media response to that. We talked about her getting engaged and writing songs about wanting to be married and wanting.
You know why I know she wasn't a virgin on her wedding day? Because these women, if they were, it would be marketed. I promise to God, it would be marketed. It would be public. It would be everywhere. Like,
to have kids and wanting to live a suburban life with a basketball court in the front yard. Like Charlie XCX, Dua Lipa, Selena.
Okay, again, Dua Lipa, because again, remember, for women, these are women aging out of the marketplace. So she got married at 30. Dua Lipa got married at 30. Selena Gomez, age 33. So again, no, if anything, these women are going to actually convince women we can wait longer to have children. And to some extent, technology has made it so women can wait longer to have children. I hate to say this. There are women that will take L's. But I think it's like half of women that can afford IV. Well, if you can afford it, I will say, unfortunately, I don't say this with like a happy heart, but the technology is getting so good. It's crazy.
Gomez, and of course, Taylor Swift. These are extremely, extremely attractive women at the top.
Brett did admit to having a situation all through college. No, sorry. Just one, right? No offense. Come on. Come on.
Top of their game with huge currency in the sexual marketplace. And they are choosing to very publicly commit themselves to one man, not just in a long-term relationship,
but again,
saying, no.
Yeah, again, so women, we think words matter. You can say you're married. You can get the ring, do the show, whatever. I don't care till you're like 10, 15, 20. I mean, Kim Kardashian and Kanye West were together 15 years. She's more credible than you guys in the nicest way possible. She has more of a track record than you. That's Kim Kardashian, right?
I am very publicly getting engaged, very publicly saying that I'm so excited to be married, writing songs about it.
It's just, women are so dumb. It's not you, Brett. It's just our gender. I think we just default to this. Songs, they don't mean anything. Actions mean stuff. So if Taylor Swift gets married and stays married for life, I mean, I'll pull up when she's like 60, but you know, like women view marriage and the wedding as the end goal. So women view like the end goal as the getting married. They don't think about what happens after the wedding.
After they have been pining for this kind of relationship for a majority of their careers. Now, another example of how things are changing are the fact that shows like Sex and the City and Girls, that were almost grotesque in their portrayal of casual sex and dysfunctional, unhealthy romantic relationships, have majorly declined in popularity. Like, I was doing some research this morning. I do not know of another show right now that is currently airing that is very popular that resembles either of those two shows in the slightest. Whereas women today are watching shows like Nobody Wants This, which is about fighting for love, fighting for a committed relationship across cultural and religious lines.
Oh, that is not true. I don't know. I was watching Netflix the other day and I just couldn't. There's so many sex scenes and like swinging stuff. Okay, yeah. Let me test this. Top female consumed TV shows. Maybe I'm wrong. Let me look at this. Let's say 2025. Love Island. Oh, see, it's like what she wants to be true because it's just a wish list.
Or probably the best example are shows like The Summer I Turned Pretty, which is a sweet, gushy YA TV show.
No, okay, I guarantee I'm gonna put The Summer I Turned Pretty. It's gonna be a mid woman with a guy out of her league, and the problem with that, Brett, Brett got a guy that was out of her league. I would say, facial symmetry wise, I would say she went up because I would say for her age, she's young, so that makes up, but she's like a 5 for her age. She got like a guy, I would say he's like a 7 looks wise. I can't tell how tall he was, but he looked kind of tall. So assuming he's tall, that's possible because of the industry we're in, right? That's not normal for women. So normally women that are mids and pine for 7 or 8 pluses, they die alone. So I'm going to assume I could be wrong. Of course, this is it. Of course. Here it is. Mid chick with a Chad. 2 Chads fighting over her. Now, again, I got a lot of pushback because I said Brett Cooper was a mid. I need to remind you guys, this is beautiful. I'll do young. Megan Fox, beautiful. That's beautiful facial symmetry. This girl, not beautiful. Not ugly, but not beautiful. These guys, top 10% facial symmetry. So again, it's all marketing telling women that they can get men that are out of their league. But, if she paid attention to the red pill instead of, complaining about it, she would understand this.
And these adult women are watching the show. They're waiting with bated breath to figure out how a youthful teenage love triangle turns out. Literally grasping at Netflix, being like, where is the next episode? I'm like waiting to figure out what is the girl. I even watched it. Bunny is her name, something like that. Belly, I think is the girl's name. But adult women are captivated by this very romantic show. Elle even wrote about this phenomenon recently, and the article reads, why almost every woman you know is obsessed with this.
Who gives a F about facial symmetry? Men do care about facial symmetry based on who they pick. So, yeah.
Summer I Turned Pretty. And the reasons probably won't surprise you. Because they are natural, because they are normal, because they are almost biological in nature. I shouldn't say almost biological, they are biological in nature. But the article reads, quote, The Summer I Turned Pretty is especially appealing to Gen X, Millennials, and Gen Z because it is tender, layered, and psychologically rich, says a therapist who specializes in relationships and attachment. Quote, it blends nostalgia, emotional intensity, and romantic fantasy in a way that taps into our earliest understandings of love and longing. In a world that often feels overwhelmingly real, Deborah Robbins, who's the therapist, adds that The Summer I Turned Pretty offers more than just escapism. Quote, even if we've outgrown fairy tales, most of us are still the earth bubble cuddle blankets. And what could help you sleep
Don't
into play?
care. Don't
Solutions, just a clear, it is so easy. Just go to pds.com/2010s. Again, once again, pdsdet.com/Brett. Okay, now back to the point. Another example that I just want to layer on top of this is that after a major slump in the 2000s and 2010s, again, when Sex and the City and Girls, those types of shows, the girl boss, the lean in empowerment was, skyrocketing in our culture. Rom-coms, after a huge slump, they are now making a return over the last couple of years. Netflix is leading the charge in that, but this is the type of content that adult women are consuming. Yes, we can laugh.
The rom-coms are going to be mid-chick, guy out of the league, old chick, guy out of her league.
And say, okay, well, that's just Hollywood, that's just media, but that is indicative of a changing culture. The types of things that we consume.
So again, it's so stupid. Oh my God, I'm getting annoyed. Sorry. No, actions indicate a change in culture. What would indicate a change in culture would be women stopping aborting their babies at significant rates, not like 25% to 22%. Age of first marriage dropping significantly. There's tweets. There's a show on Netflix people are watching. The worst takes. I just wonder sometimes how, this is the thing, there's a canon event in life, and this is what we're going to talk about with Candace Owens. None of us should be here. Now, I can't help the society I'm in, right? But all of us are here because we're women. Some are better than others, but a lot of the women, they get big egos. They think their takes are so original and smart. And literally, I'm listening to a commentator say, she does this for a living, right? A commentator say that the culture is changing because Netflix. Do you know what I mean? It's just, this is where we're at. So this is going to be a canon event at some point. When women's looks start to fade, reality does hit us because we can't compete the same way we used to. She's 22. So this will happen in like 5 years. No offense, Pearl, you're not hot. That's okay. I'm not. Pearl is a 10. Oh, we're arguing in the chat. Okay. We're arguing.
Influencing our decisions, our values, our attitudes. It is important to dissect that and try to understand what that means. And you see all of this in the comment section of that initial viral post that I read to you guys. I actually did not see a single person after 20 million impressions echoing or supporting what that girl said. In fact, most of them were actually just making fun of her. One comment read, "Why would I want to have sex with different people? That's effing gross." Another person...
Again, they're signaling purity. Again, what was her action? Not the tweet, not what she tweet. You can tweet anything. I'm going to tweet I'm a virgin tomorrow, so maybe I can get my virginity back. Do you know what I mean?
Basically used her same meme format and said, y'all really want to avoid committing yourself to one person to instead have sex with dozens of strangers till you're like 40 and then be all alone and miserable for the rest of your life? Yeah, ooh, that's gross. You might think settling down and being in love and having somebody commit to you.
Were you a virgin on your wedding day? Okay. This is how they're manipulating you. This is how they're manipulating you.
It was disgusting, but I would make the same Gossip Girl Leighton Meester face at you hooking up with random people until you are old and they move on to people who are younger. Like, sorry, that genuinely is gross. That is genuinely how I feel. Another commenter said,
were you a virgin on your wedding day? No? It's always the answer. And they think I mean this to insult them. It's really not, but it's like, that's the difference between the red pill and a lot of other like movements. You could say is the red pill is like, what did the people actually choose? What are they choosing? Where these other movements are like, what we wish could be true. This will be true in our lifetime, maybe someday. And it's like, okay, we have to operate in the society we're in now. Not what we wish to be true. I don't sell hope. That's mean. That's dishonest. Yeah, so.
That is like an insane thing to think of. That is how backwards our society has or
Yeah, let me keep.
now, that debate that is happening on X right now is about whether women are actually attractive postpartum, if that means that their husbands will cheat on them and leave them postpartum, and how this makes childless women think about having kids. Because a lot of women, are not interested in having children, and a big reason why is because they do not want their bodies to change. They don't want their romantic relationships to change. And obviously, this is a really pleasant debate for me to hear when I am 6 weeks postpartum, but it's okay. I feel good.
No, again, these are the conservative women. 6 weeks postpartum, and she said, "I'm back at it. Fuck this kid." This is doing this shows, it takes a lot of work. She's like, "Screw you, kid. Why would I raise you when I could do you too?" And again, I'm not saying that as an insult, but it's just not, it's not traditional. And it's even worse because these women marry into money. They marry into money, right? And so they marry rich and then claim traditional as they work when they don't have to. It's another thing, like when women have to work, but they claim to be like these trad e-girls, and then they work when they don't have to. It's just crazy. If I could sell hope, I can't. I can't.
Feel confident we're just going to ignore this. Just kidding. We actually do need to talk about this. Now, this whole debate started with these two posts. This woman said, "I've had multiple women in New York City tell me that they don't want to get pregnant because they're afraid of what it will do to their body." And RFH doctor said that is because men are disgusted by postpartum bodies. And that quote tweet now has millions and millions of impressions and thousands of comments. Now, interestingly, when I was going through the quote tweets of this post, when I was scrolling through the comment section, as I do, it was the women who were agreeing with this. They were crapping on men, and they were also saying that they were the ones who found postpartum bodies scary or unattractive, and it was the men that were denying it. Now, for a lot of you, this probably is not shocking in the slightest, especially if you are a woman, if you have been around groups of women, if you understand gender relations, how women treat themselves or others, because women are our own harshest critics. That is something I have actually talked about a lot because many feminists like to point the finger at men and say, "You've done this to me. You made me have to be skinny."
No, really, it's just you can't handle the internet. I can handle the internet. I accept it. I mean, they bully me on this app. I'll tell you what. I think the top search is like "just pearly things gets owned." I mean, people love telling me how they feel. And I accept it, but then women come into these fields and they want to tone police. Why are you here?
You did all of this when actually
I think her mom is there a lot to help. Yeah, that's another thing. Women, so we can pursue our careers. We ditch the kid. We're like, "Mom, do my job for me." I'm not against like mothers helping or whatever if they want to, but a lot of times what happens is they want to like do their own thing. And so again, at its core, that action is saying, me mothering, the YouTube is more important, which is fine. I don't, but it's just not what they're selling at the Daily Wire.
it's other women. Women are the ones who pressure other women to go get plastic surgery, who make them feel insecure.
Now, again, it's women pressuring other women, and women are just doing it because they're pressured. It's not, women are doing it because they want to hide their aging and get power.
Who say that you need to be skinny or look a certain way. 9 times out of 10, it is women who are doing that and not men. And that was very much on display in this comment section because just listen to some of this. This is all from men. This guy said, as a man with 3 kids, this is nonsensical rage bait. Another one said, "No, we're not. LOL, who told you that? Somebody with purple hair." And then I love this one.
Now, the men are obviously going to lie. Men are biologically hardwired to not hurt our feelings. They hate hurting our feelings. There is a decrease in attraction when a lot of times with the weight gain after pregnancy. And men just are not attracted to stretch marks. It doesn't like look good physically, but men do get wife goggles, sort of. I'll just keep watching.
Because this guy said,
if we're gonna be 100% accurate here, are they more attracted to you before or after? It's always before. It's always younger. It's just always.
Male opinion on female beauty mattered this much in women's life choices, buccal fat removal would be a crime. And true, I am very much in support of that. Another one said, extremely urbanite feminist take and false. And then this guy said, not when it is the mother of our children. And right there is the key point. That should be the end of this entire debate. And I hope that the women who are still afraid of what motherhood means for their attractiveness or their love lives or just their bodies, I hope that you hear this. Because obviously, having children changes your body. It is one of the many sacrifices that women make when they choose to have a baby. Now, does that mean that you are automatic on the same subject?
Here we go.
Johnson's wife posted about loving her postpartum body, about how she's worked so hard to get back in shape. She feels great. And she was saying that, having kids does not have to destroy you. She said, I'm 36 weeks postpartum. I've had 4 babies in 4
Damn, she looks good.
4 years. Don't believe the lies that having kids destroys you. And this caused a whole other debate on the same subject. But she's absolutely correct. And while our culture today seems to want to reject exceptionalism and health in favor of relatability and enablement, especially when it comes to content, especially when it comes to women, seeing these types of stories is a net positive thing. And seeing this type of post for many women should be empowering and hopeful for you. But regardless of how quickly you get back on the horse postpartum or feel like yourself or feel attractive again, I certainly am trying to find my normal equilibrium. I don't feel like myself 6 weeks postpartum, but regardless, your body still might change. You might not look like Benny Johnson's wife, but does that mean that your husband will stop loving you or finding you attractive? I mean, we would hope not. And he is an asshole if so. And again, this all goes back to the same conversation we were, because when you have sex, no matter how careful you are being, no matter what birth control forms you are using.
No, it's actually really easy to not get pregnant. Don't let these trad women scare you. It's like, guys, it is so hard to get all these women that pretend they just got pregnant. Okay. That was enough. I gotta come at these e-girls selling hope and purity. I'm like the selling hope and purity police. So now we're going to transition to the next topic because, I just need you to be better, Brett. Please be better. I beg you. I really appreciate you speaking up for men, and I love that you do it fearlessly. Proud supporter. And the 19th. The 19th is here to stay. Sadly. Okay, so next we're going to move on to Candace Owens. So Candace Owens is the next. I wanted to give my take on her legal troubles because I did predict this in a way. So remember, Candace Owens, all these women, they start off as liberal. If you ask them, were you religious in college? No. Did you believe in abortion in college? Yes. And but as women get closer to wanting the kids, for whatever reason, it always benefits them though, not the kids, not the husband. Which is fine. Then you'll see them magically becoming conservative. And what happens is after they get as many children as they want, that's when Coach Greg Adams talks about this. That's when we tend to bait and switch. That's when we tend to, change our personality, be a different person, be more of a bit. That's why I don't think it's surprising that Brett comes for the red pill guys right after she gets the kid, Now she can use her kid for clout for 18 years. So it's good, All right. So Candace Owens and her ongoing legal troubles. Candace Owens has been all over the headlines as of late between her lawsuits with the Macrones in court in Delaware to the claims she's made after Charlie Kirk's death. Candace is headed down a path with very serious and expensive consequences. Let's look at some of the updates on her legal troubles today. But before we do that, let's talk about consequences. Candace is a woman with a big ego. So I don't get big ego vibes from Brett. I get stupid take vibes, that's a dumb take, which I get it. It happens to the best of us. But I don't really, but Candace, it's just very obvious she has a big ego, and that's anyone that I've met that's known her personally. Everyone says that. I have mutuals. I mean, that's just her reputation. I'd say her ego's bigger than everyone's on the right. You can tell this by the cases of the hill she's choosing to die on that are the source of the lawsuits. So one of them that I just thought was stupid is Macron's wife really a man? And, Candace is saying, look, I am willing to potentially financially bankrupt my family to prove some dude overseas has a dick. Maybe. Now, in my head, you know what? If this person, how old is this Macron? How old? "72." Okay, the average person lives to be 77. Honestly, if Macron is a dude, if Bridget is a dude, and she's made it to 72 successfully pretending to be a woman, you win. I mean, at that point, like, this person's about to kick the bucket. And for me, I just don't care what someone's doing overseas. What is the purpose of this? Eh, Even if she's been able to pull this off for that many years, I don't think it's worth the consequences she's going to be facing if she loses the lawsuit. That's her biggest legal problem now. Now, Candace, like most women, we tend to get this like God complex when you do this job. They all think that they're the version, that they're the example of doing the right thing and telling the truth, and it'll work out for her and shield her from consequences. But the thing is, men that have reached her age, because women are shielded by so much from beauty, right? There's a man willing to figure out her problems. She was employed by men for most of her 20s. So there was a man willing to solve her problems most of the time. She married into money. Now, men understand that there are men that do nothing wrong and have terrible consequences. By the time a guy's 30, he's seen a guy get a false accusation. He's seen a guy get brutally divorced. He's seen a man do nothing wrong. And he's seen a man do nothing wrong and still have the consequences as if he did. So men by her age have seen other men get cooked doing this, and Candace is going to find out. All right, so let me share my screen. So, men are much more calculated in what they're willing to die on. Emmanuel Macron and wife expand the lawsuit against Candace Owens over continued defamation. French President Emmanuel Macron and First Lady Brigitte Macron are pressing forward in their transatlantic defamation battle against American far-right commentator Candace Owens, filing an amended complaint Friday that accused her of escalating a campaign of falsehoods, even as she moves to have the case dismissed. Owens has falsely claimed that Brigitte Macron is transgender. Owens filed a 43-page motion to dismiss on September 12th, arguing that Delaware courts has no jurisdiction over the dispute and that the case should be heard if at all. According to the filing, Owens records her show in the basement of her Nashville home. Her lawyers called the lawsuit a quintessential libel tourism, saying the Macrons are attempting to sidestep France's strict 3-month statute of limitations for defamation claims. Instead of suing in their home country or in Tennessee, the Macrons sued in Delaware, which has no connection to the claims. The Macrons sued Owens in July after the far-right personality continuously claimed without evidence that Brigitte was assigned male at birth. The Macrons countered Owens' latest filing with a 241-page amended complaint detailing what they describe as Owens' vitriolic attacks. According to the filings, Owens has recycled the false claim that Brigitte Macron was born a male, expanding her podcast series and even selling merchandise mocking the French first couple. The complaints highlight new allegations, including Owens' suggestion that Brigitte Macron, under the name Jean-Michel, participated in the Stanford prison experiment, a 1971 study in which Stanford students were assigned the role of guards and prisoners. That experiment was shut down after only 6 days when participants playing guards began abusing their authority, and it is now remembered as a notorious example of unethical research. Owens, according to the complaint, also attempted to link the couple to conspiracies involving incest, pedophilia, and mind control. Since we filed the lawsuit, Ms. Owens has only strengthened our case by doubling down and escalating her knowingly false and defamatory rhetoric against the Macrones. Counsel for the couple said in a statement to the Advocate, the amended complaint we filed last week captures the breadth of her continual vitriol and addresses her desperate attempts to have this case heard in what she perceives to be a more friendly forum. We are confident that this litigation is before the appropriate court, but regardless of where it is heard, the facts and evidence supporting our claims speak for themselves. Bridget Macron has already won defamation cases in France against others who spread similar rumors. Although a ruling in Macron's favor was overturned, appeals remain ongoing. Okay, so here we go. Let me share the screen. Candace Owens has moved to dismiss Macron's lawsuits against her, even though she told Tucker Carlson last month that she had no intention of seeking a
I think they're banking on us dismissing it. I think one of two options.
What does that mean?
You can at first file to dismiss the case because you're going, hi, we have the First Amendment right. This is crazy. It's coming from Paris. I mean, like, why on earth would we honor this at all? Secondly, it's like, are we really going to allow the French president to come in here and like stifle my right to speech? I think they want us to dismiss it.
So you're not going to try to have the case dismissed?
I certainly do not want to have the case dismissed.
Amazing.
Yeah,
I've never
and so
heard that
we're having.
before.
I mean, we're having these discussions.
Guys, I just want to linger on this for a moment, having been around a lot of lawsuits. I've never heard anybody say, I don't want a well-funded case against me to be dismissed.
It's how I feel. And the reason that I feel.
Yeah.
That way,
yeah, it's how I feel. Here we go. Of course it is.
The actual liability is for Candace Owens.
I think she has very little chance of prevailing in the suit based on the venue, based on the allegations in the complaint, unless she's able to prove that the allegations in the complaint are not true, or she has an undisclosed evidentiary source that is persuasive to a judge and a jury. She basically accused Bridget Macron of being the father of Emmanuel Macron. So it's not just, people think it's just the trans thing. It's not. They're suing because she alleges about a dozen crimes, incest, rape, murder, attempted murder, extortion, bribery, blackmail, identity theft, impersonation. I've done a lot of defamation and libel cases, successfully represented Robert Kennedy, successfully represented the Covington kids. And what I've been warning people is the lawsuit is being brought by the law firm that represented Dominion, big libel law firm. It's clear they're planning on going after a bunch of other people. Theo Vaughn, it includes Tim Dillon, it includes Clayton Morris of Redacted. They even name-dropped Joe Rogan. Maybe she's got, high-end French intelligence that has the super secret intel that this is the scandal of the century. Unless she has that, unfortunately, I think she's dead to rights. But I hope and pray that there's something I totally have miscalculated. So it's 0% under my assumptions. If Candace wins this case, it'll be the biggest miracle I've ever seen in the history of law.
Damn. Okay. Ian Mills Chong says Candace Owens built a brand out of playing with fire, and now that she's finding out what happens when you light a match next to a gas tank. Here's a look at how this lawsuit could hit Candace Owens' wallet based on what the public records show. This Macron's lawsuit is seeking both compensatory and punitive damages, meaning Owens could be ordered to pay not just for the actual harm to Bridget Macron's reputation, but also as punishment for what the Macrons call malicious defamation. The complaint points out that Owens profited from the smear through her Becoming Bridget podcast or social media posts, and even the merchandise tied to the rumor. If the court rules against her, the damages could include the disgorgement of the money she made from selling that content and the merch. On top of that, the legal costs, attorney fees, court fees, and the possible expert witnesses if the case involves medical or DNA evidence. If Owens loses, she may be ordered to pay the Macron's legal costs. And since her business entities like Candace Owens and George Tom Inc. are named in the suit, the financial risks aren't limited to her personally. Her media brand, revenue streams, sponsorships, and future deals are all on the line if the court finds her liable. The best case scenario is Owens manages to limit damages, keep punitive awards low, and settle most of the claims cleanly. In that situation, she could still be out anywhere from $500K to $2 million, covering compensatory damages, some punitive element, and legal fees. Painful but survivable. But the worst case scenario is the Macrons might prove actual malice, demonstrate that the Owens profited from the smear, and push for a heavy punitive award. Similar defamation cases involving public figures have run into the tens of millions. If that pattern repeats, Owens could be staring down 50 million or more once punitive damages, disgorgement of profits, and legal costs are factored in. That's at the top of a long-term collapse of sponsorship deals and credibility. The question is, what lesson do we learn from this? That lies eventually bankrupt you, that clout chasing has a price, or that some people have to be financially destroyed before they can understand that free speech can come at a cost when you launder conspiracy theories for clicks. I actually don't think Candace, I think she's just kind of dumb, right? I think she's like a woman that was put in a position she doesn't deserve because she's a woman, which is, I mean, I'm not even going to pretend I'm one of them. But you can't have a big ego when you're given a spot you don't deserve. Do you know what I mean? You can't, and she's just got too big of an ego. She's got a need to be right. And I think it's going to cook her. In 2024, Candace Owens was denied a visa to the country of Australia. Home Affairs Minister Tony Burke's decision to bar Candace from the country was based on character grounds. It was ruled to have made extremist and inflammatory comments against marginalized communities that could incite hate. Australia does not have an equivalent of the First Amendment that guarantees free speech. So here we go. So again, this is stuff that's going to affect her family, and she could be raising kids, but she's busy getting banned from Australia. And which is fine, but just admit, do you know what I mean? Just say, you know what? I don't care about my kids that much. They'll be fine. That would really be the ideal for me. Yeah.
It was Immigration Minister Tony Burke who made the decision to ban Candace Owens from Australia, finding she didn't meet the character test. The decision was based on concerns she could incite discord in a section of the community, and the visit wasn't in the national interest. Candace Owens has millions of subscribers on YouTube and is accused of promoting conspiracy theories, stoking anti-Semitism amid remarks about immigration. Mr. Burke also cited the claim by the perpetrator of the Christchurch mosque terror attacks, who described her as the person who had influenced him above all. Ms. Owens argued the law was at odds with the implied right to freedom of political communication. But today, the High Court found that freedom is not a personal right. The court found the refusal of the visa was justified in the national interest because of the risk Ms. Owens' visit could encourage strife. Around the time...
She's so cooked. Okay, good. Australia's highest court rejects Candace Owens' visa challenge. Australia's highest court on Wednesday rejected U.S. conservative commentator Candace Owens' bid to overturn an Australian government decision barring her from visiting the country. 3 high court judges unanimously rejected Owens' challenge to Home Affairs Minister Tony Burke's decision in 2024 to refuse her visa on character grounds. Owens had planned a speaking tour in Australia last November and also visit neighboring New Zealand. Burke used his powers under the Migration Act last October to refuse her visa because she failed the so-called character test. Burke found that there was a risk Owens would incite discord in Australian community and that refusing her visa was in the national interest. As a political commentator, author, and activist, Owens was known for her controversial and conspiratorial views. She has made extremist and inflammatory comments towards Muslims, Black, Jewish, and LGBTQIA communities, which generate controversy and hatred, Burke said in court documents. Owens' lawyer argued that the Migrant Act was unconstitutional because it infringed upon Australia's implied freedom of speech for political commentators. Australia doesn't have an equivalent of the U.S. First Amendment that states the right to free speech. But because Australia is a democracy, the High Court has decided the Constitution implies free speech, limited government to governmental and political manners. Owens' lawyers argued that if the Migration Act was constitutional, then Burke had misconstrued his powers under the law refusing her a visa. The judges rejected both arguments and ordered Owens to pay the government court costs. Burks described the ruling as a win for cohesion, inciting that discord may be the way some people make money, but it's not welcome in Australia. Owens' spokesman told the Associated Press in an email on Thursday Owens would comment on the court decision on social media later that week. Burke had told the court that while Owens already had an ability to incite discord through her 18 million followers across social media platforms, her presence in Australia would amplify that potential. He noted that when Australia's terrorism threat level was elevated from possible to probable last year, the National Domestic Spy Agency reported an increase in extremism. Australia has long used wide discretion under the character test to refuse foreigners temporary visas. Burke stripped Ye, the U.S. rapper known as Kanye West, of the Australian visa after he released the song Hail Hitler in May last year. Ye has been traveling for years to Australia, where his wife of 3 years, Bianca Sensori, was born. Burke's decision to ban Owens prompting neighboring New Zealand to review her visa in November on the grounds that she has been rejected in Australia. But a New Zealand immigration official overturned that refusal in December, citing the importance of freedom of speech. Okay, so shortly after Charlie Kirk's murder, Candace Owens accused Josh Hammer of having prior knowledge of his assassination attempt. Josh is now threatening legal action against her. Candace Owens is trying to suggest that Josh Hammer had prior knowledge of Charlie Kirk's assassination and for some reason posted about it the night before. She claims he randomly pulled a 12-year-old Trump post. He rarely posts about public executions. There is no context for the post. Every single one of these claims is false. Hammer has repeatedly posted about public executions and the death penalty. The Trump post was going viral that day, connecting to Irina Zerunsky's murder. Candace later contradicts herself by acknowledging this. Hammer has already posted about Zerutska that day and retweeted 2 posts about Zerutska before his own. Owens also gets the basic facts wrong. Hammer's first post on the topic of public executions was about the Uvalde shooter in 2022. Nope. Hammer called the prompt publicity execution of the Boston Marathon bomber in 2019. So either Candace Owens is deliberately lying to her audience, or she's too incompetent to find the most accessible facts and notice the most basic patterns. And this is the woman who people think is leading the investigation into Charlie Kirk. Yeah, I mean, women are just prone to believing nonsense. So it doesn't really shock me. I really don't think she's malicious, right? A lot of people say she's like money hungry. Maybe a little bit, but that's not really. I think she's just got a big ego and there's just a lack of humility and it's going to bite her in the ass. Again, she thinks she's smarter than she is. I think she just thinks she's smarter than she is. The nannies are raising the kids, obviously.
Twitter users pointed out a very strange tweet that Josh Hammer hit send on 16 hours before Charlie Kirk was assassinated. For no apparent reason at all, he retweeted something that President Donald Trump had sent a full 12 years ago about public executions. Here it is. Here is that retweet. Now, what is the justification for this? There might be one. I tried in earnest to at first rationalize it, right? What could have been going on that Josh Hammer decided to dig through the 2013 Twitter archives?
That is such a dumb take. That he said that public executions are based. And now you're going to pin it to Charlie Kirk.
And retweet someone calling for a public execution. Would we trust if Josh came out and said that tweet was definitely about Irina? Other people pulled Trump tweets. Some did pulled that very tweet and called for a public execution. The first time that he tweeted about a public execution was back in 2013. And he said it in reference, in 2022. And He said it in reference to the Boston Marathon.
You see why I know this is so hypocritical in my position, but we really shouldn't be in these positions. A man would never get this wrong. Bring in Brandon Tatum. Bring in Brandon Tatum. Bring him in. Brandon Tatum. We need a black guy to cover this story. Brandon, come in. Brandon. You know what I mean?
Marathon bombing terrorist account. Oh, sorry, the Uvalde shooter. And I can tell you that it is not something that Josh Hammer regularly tweets about. Rather than say what he definitely meant or what he didn't mean, I decided to just create a micro timeline of Josh Hammer's tweets the day before Charlie Kirk's assassination. This is what Josh Hammer tweeted. He tweeted a total of 9 times on September 9th, and you can gather what was going on at that day from his tweets. This 3-hour break, maybe this is a 3-hour break where he speaks to Charlie Kirk. And then at 9:09 p.m., again, we're talking Eastern, Josh Hammer tweets in favor of public execution, and there's no context that is provided.
Is Pearl a hypocrite? Yeah. Yeah, I can admit it. You know what I mean? Yeah. In a lot of ways, I am hypocritical. You know, I rag on women, you know, and I'm a woman. You know, I could be better. But it's just, I can't take this anymore. Candace, you're going to get sued, honey. Darling, I need you to... You're only in this position because you're a woman, so I need you to be a little more careful. Brandon. Or Nick F. You know what I mean? Anyone else? Yeah. I would divorce her if I was the husband. I would not want these problems. No. Now they're going to go back and forth. Look, I mean, there's a lot of ways I fall short, and I try to be honest about that. There's a lot of ways I could be a lot better as like a person. I'm not going to give you a list, but like, you know what I mean? There's so
Provided. So anybody telling you he for sure meant...
Okay, so now she's going to get sued by this guy too, which is crazy.
That I saw that Candace Owens did
My bad.
a show where she leaked the WhatsApp chat that I had been in with Charlie Kirk. So right as I was turning my phone off, I started getting some snippets of notifications there, but I really had no idea what would transpire when it comes to the sheer levels of her derangement and insanity over the 48 hours, give or take, that would ensue. Now, someone did tell me at synagogue while I was offline, you know, just a heads up, Candace is really going after you. And that kind of sealed me a little bit, but there's really no preparation for like actually turning the phone on and truly seeing all the notifications. I'll put it this way. I was up till 3 a.m. local time that night, just dealing with all the messages and emails and whatnot there. It's not fun. Now, to an extent, it's part of just the nature of our business. I mean, when you put yourselves out there, you're going to get pushback, but this is not pushback, right? I mean, this is not someone responding to a legal theory of mine or making an intelligent point about the two-state solution or not two-state solution. No, I mean, this is literally just picking a Jewish person and calling him subhuman filth and sicking your band of millions and millions of neo-Nazi zealots on a Jewish person who happens to be you like Charlie, happens to be a husband and a father to a young child. So, I mean, it's just awful, awful stuff. And I guess I will say, Aaron, I think I'm pretty sure I've said this publicly already. I'm talking to lawyers. I think I'm a lawyer by background. I clerked for a federal appeals judge. I know a thing or two about United States constitutional law. I think that we have a potentially serious case here for defamation, and I'm very much speaking with lawyers, and we'll see what happens.
I agree entirely regarding you going down that avenue, because I find, and as someone who's been in the media in Australia for a very long time, I was very aware and fine with the fact that people would write and say things about me that weren't true. It's part and parcel of being in the public eye, of being a celebrity, of that whole side of things. And I was willing to tolerate a million things. You know, my partner and I, we've broken up, they had a fight, she's dating this guy. None of that matters. Who cares, right?
Okay. I got to have a talk to the chat. I'm going to tell you guys this once. This is a free speech zone. You do get freedom of speech here. However, we do have, you know, me and Doug are not paying to get bullied here. You do, when you come on the show, you do have to give us a level of respect. If you don't want to, you are totally welcome to talk shit elsewhere. Doug MPA, I mean. But I'm just letting you know, you can't, if you don't like the rules, it's totally fine, but there is a baseline level of respect you do have to give me when I have the show, Doug MPA. And if you don't want to, we will boot. So, you know, I'm just letting you know. If Doug MPA says no caps, just, you know, stick away from the caps. Yeah, it's a free speech zone mostly. Sorry, you know. Yeah, so it is what it is, you know. Take it or leave it.
You let it go.
Yep.
But it's when they come at the core of who you are. That's when you have every right to exercise your.
It's like a free speech zone until you bully me, and I'm like, I don't really have to listen to getting bullied, so I'm just gonna skirt, you know. I'm not gonna judge you for it, but yeah.
Or legal response to that. It's nothing to do with free speech. She is lying in a way that is resonating with people in a way that damages you significantly.
Yeah, it's just so evil. I mean, Charlie was a good friend of mine. I mean, I've known him for 5-6 years, give or take, but we really became close over the final year and a half of his life. We were in daily communication. You know, I don't actually know precisely the extent to which he and Candace communicated in the final year or two, but she very much was on the outs of Turning Point USA, and my understanding is that they were not in touch at all. I mean, maybe kind of a happy birthday kind of here or there, but not close touch. And you know, I mean, Aaron, when I first found out that Charlie had been shot, I canceled the rest of my day. I literally went and prayed. I just prayed until I found out the news. And then when I heard the news, I was like uncontrollably sobbing. And when I recorded my show the next day and I had to talk about it, it was the first time that I ever broke down crying while recording a show. I'm typically able to control my emotion like that. I couldn't. I mean, he was a friend, and this is a friend. It's the first time I've ever had a friend murdered, let alone murdered in this high profile of fashion, in like internationally, globally visible fashion, the highest profile political assassinations in the United States since Martin Luther King Jr. and Robert F. Kennedy back in 1968. So to experience all of that, and then to see this demonic figure accuse me of complicity in that, again, for the simple reason that I am Jewish. But the reason she's doing it, Aaron, which should be so astoundingly obvious, because there's been this whole fight about Charlie's legacy, including on the Jews, which, by the way, that in and of itself is disturbing. Charlie Kirk was murdered by a left-wing fanatic, someone who was indoctrinated by the university, who was in a romantic relationship with his transgender roommates, who had a bizarre fetish for furries, you know, people who dress like animals. He had the lyrics to Bella Ciao, the Italian Marxist song, written on the bullets. We know who he was. We know why he pulled the trigger. So the fact that we're even having this big debate over Charlie's legacy on Israel and Jews is pretty disturbing in and of itself. But the reason that Candace, I think, ultimately decided to go down this hyper-conspiratorial, evil and demonic and twisted path when it comes to me in particular is that it complicates her narrative and their narrative. It complicates their narrative because they can't stand the fact that a kippah, yarmulke wearing Jew who wrote a book about Israel and the Jews and Western civilization, they can't stand the fact that someone like me, was actually in Charlie's inner circle. It deeply muddies, it deeply complicates their narrative, and therefore the narrative can't exist and has to be eradicated. I think that partially is what's happening here as well.
The stuff with the donors and that kind of thing. And my show's, I don't have donors. It's, God, I wish I did. I don't. And that's, so it's a space I don't understand, but I've been in mainstream media for 20 years. I see it in a similar way to advertisers, or, which has been a huge part of, and you have endorsements and that kind of thing. What I find bizarre, and not really because, it's the Jews, but this would be fairly normal in any business, any media company. You would have, say, a sponsor or McDonald's. We've had on radio, we were Breakfast Radio, where I worked with 2 comedians, and we would do controversial things, and we would have a segment. Then a boss would come in and say, hey, one of our advertisers is not very happy, or the boss might have sent, them a message saying, this doesn't really align with our, or we're giving you a heap of money and it doesn't feel right to us. That's not a Jewish donor thing. That's just anyone who invests in an organization, or who sponsors content, or who advertises, wants the content that they're surrounding their brand with, or that they believe in, to reflect their values. I don't know why this has suddenly become a Jewish thing. I wouldn't say it's rare in the world of media to have people who have invested or who advertise push back a little bit on content. That happens all the time on every show. Why is it specifically a Jewish thing? Why? That's not a big deal, I wouldn't have thought.
It shouldn't be. Look, it is the nature of the not-for-profit space, and Turning Point USA is a not-for-profit organization. It is the nature of the space where you will have donors who are donating to an organization because they expect the organization to do something, to stand for something, to advocate. And if the donor feels in his or her individual capacity that the organization no longer does that, it is obviously that donor's right to pull the money. To give a very concrete example here, let's take the abortion issue, and an issue that I'm also pretty outspoken about here. So I've spoken at numerous conferences sponsored by Lila Rose, who's the head of a group called Live Action, a pro-life organization in the United States. Okay, if I were a pro-life, anti-abortion donor to Live Action, and then I saw that Live Action was starting to justify abortion, I would pull my donation because the organization stopped supporting what I thought it was supporting there. So if you had someone who was donating to Turning Point USA, he thought that it was a pro-Jewish, pro-Israel organization, and if the donor in his own right thinks that it is going adrift for platform Tucker Carlson, that is his right to pull that donation. But by the way, it's also Charlie Kirk's right to be upset about that. I mean, that's kind of just the nature of the donor and the donee. So Charlie, in these screenshots that Candace publicized, was just he was frustrated at losing a donation, as anyone would be. It's a natural human response, and he's blowing off steam. But the timeline is so off, as I explained in my own response to Candace, Aaron, because 2 hours after these screenshots, Charlie had me and two or three others in a Zoom call. He organized this Zoom call for the express purpose of trying to bring him up to speed on the best way to handle the anti-Israel keffiyeh-clad crazies on his campus tour set to begin the next day. So someone who was actually about to turn on Israel, as those out-of-context screenshots imply, would he have had on me the night before his campus tour? It doesn't make any sense in the world because it's not true.
No, absolutely. Talk to me about Turning Point. As an organization, it is so important.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so Candace Owens, I think she's going to get sued into oblivion. I hope she doesn't. I hope she doesn't, for her sake. But, she's used to getting away with stuff because her looks would get her out of it. Sorry, Candace, you're slipping into sub-mid. You look good for your age, but you're officially slipping into sub-mid. And when you're sub-mid, that's when you start getting treated like a man. Luckily, I was born ugly, so I was born into that. I'm just kidding. So I'm just kidding. Yeah, so these lawsuits are settled. It's going to be her name on the docket for these. She's the one who's going to get in trouble. Maybe your husband too. That's your own fault for marrying a crazy woman, obviously. So anyways, guys, let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure you like the video. And that's all I got for you today. If you want, you can go to theaudacitynetwork.com. Sign up $10 a month in case I ever get Candace Owens. Do you know what I mean? Also, we were trying to do a divorce documentary. Oh, I want to say thank you. I almost forgot. I don't know why it doesn't tell me. Oh no, I can't. Okay, let me see if I can log in here. for some reason, it doesn't tell me ways of contacting the people that donate. But I do want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. So just so you guys know, the quotes I've gotten for the documentary, and I know what you're thinking, how could it cost this much? You would be fucking surprised. That's all I could say. You would be surprised. Low end around 100K, high end $1 million, middle end 200, 250. And I'd really love to get started, but I just would hate to start the documentary and have to stop. Anyways. So thank you, Desmond, for the $50, Jake, $100, 2 anonymous donations, Michael, $100, anonymous, John, $5, Todd, $25, May, I'm just going to say your first name, $2,000. Holy shit. I wanted to reach out to you personally, May, if you're watching this, and just say thank you. But so if you're watching, May, just send me your email. I'll call you personally to say thank you. Anonymous, $10. Neil, thank you, $50. Jackie, $10. Another anonymous, $5,000. Thank you. Again, message me if Whitney, $40 monthly. So I really appreciate it. I want to say thank you to you guys. We're at $51,000, almost 52. Again, I apologize for this taking forever. I also learned the lesson that a lot of women learned when I got demonetized on YouTube. I should tell you the reason I got demonetized. It was pretty funny. Maybe I'll tell you guys on the audacitynetworks.com. If I get enough signups and you guys like the comment, I'll tell you the story of how I got demonetized. Okay, guys, please like the video if you can't do anything else, because it helps push this stuff. If you find the show entertaining and fun, please do. Subscribe to the channel, ring the notification bell, and I will see you guys next time.